I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and we're Sophie and Sarah.
Thank you for joining us today on this video.
Now let's get right into the video. Woo! Hello there. Sorry I've been a little, gone recently. To be honest, I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, and it's kind of taken over my life. I filmed a video about my, Animal Crossing island and a little island tour. That kind of fell through because I didn't have a micro SD card to get the footage on. Basically, the Animal Crossing video that I filmed never really happened. So the other project I've been working on the side that has been taking me a long time to finish was this coat that I made. It is based on Lila Bards from the Shades of Magic series, that is this book series right here. I might do a review on the books later if anyone's interested in that. I'll probably make that. I love these books. They're not perfect, but I think it's a really good fantasy series, and overall, I do suggest reading these. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about this coat that I made and the pattern that I used for it. So the pattern that I used is the Simplicity S9086, and I used this A coat design here, not this one. The neckline of this one matched the one on the cover of the book a little bit better. Yeah, you can see just a little bit. There's still some differences, so I did make some adjustments as I went on. I'll probably talk about some troubleshooting problems that I had. Basically, this whole tutorial is gonna be me talking about where I struggled, so maybe if you're intermediate like me, you can figure out if this is a pattern you want to spend money on or if it's something you want to try doing, because I did struggle a lot in certain places. So let's get right into that. Like all patterns, I started by cutting out all the pieces. I keep them in a plastic bag so that I don't lose them, and also because they don't really fit back in this bag. For some reason, they triple in size. So basically I have all the pieces in here. Now let's talk about fabrics. So for the main body of the coat, I used a black gabardine that I got at Joann. It's a really pretty fabric. It has a nice weight to it. It looks very regal, and it kind of feels the way a suit does. Has that diagonal grain, and it's really nice. But if I have to say one thing about this fabric is that it frays a lot. Noticeably a lot while I was sewing. I could feel it fraying all the time. Basically, this fabric just frays a lot. You gotta be careful with it. I would honestly suggest using a serger for all your seams with this, because this material is just not, it won't hold up for much longer, at least on where you cut stuff. That was one of my main problems, is I don't have a serger, so I had to use pinking shears, which are the scissors that have little zigzags in them, but only fabric ones. Don't use ones that are for paper, because that's not gonna work. So those did hold up for me in my coat. The pinking shears did manage to do the job. You can see here. There we go. Maybe you can't see that, but yeah. It kept it from fraying more. I honestly wish I had a serger. For the lining, I used a gold polyester from Joann. I have some here, I can show you. So I'll put the exact one that I bought in the description box down there. Some people reviewed this and said that it felt like plastic. I don't think so. I think it's a pretty nice fabric. It feels pretty good. It doesn't really feel like satin or anything like that, but it's definitely it doesn't cling to you. It's pretty smooth when you wear it. I like it. It's called Narcissus. It's really pretty in real life. The gold is really shiny, and it has a cool, almost brassy undertone, so it doesn't just look like bright yellow gold. It's a little darker tone. It's pretty nice, basically. I do recommend using this fabric for a lining. Always use pinking shears or do something to finish your seams so they don't fray like mine did for way too long. That's on fabric for this. Oh, another material I forgot about is there are these buttons that I got. These are also from Joann. These are 7/8 inch buttons. They have little gold anchors on them. Man, this is really grainy. My camera's not very good. I only used 4. I have a few more, and I thought about putting them down the coat like they are on the book cover, but I ended up not doing that because it didn't really match. It just felt out of place. It didn't look right on this coat that I made, so I only put the 4. Now let's get into the construction of my coat. So, like most things, I just followed the pattern. I would probably rank my sewing skills somewhere around intermediate. I've made a few costumes before with my grandma, and we've done quilts and a few other things here and there. I don't sew a whole lot, so I wouldn't consider myself advanced, but I was able to follow this pattern pretty well. I'll first talk about the alterations that I made to the pattern. So one of the things that I did is I did not put a zipper on the front. The original pattern has this part zip up. I did not put a zipper on my coat because I didn't feel like I needed it, because in the book it never describes a zipper, and I just felt like it would make it a little too modern. It wouldn't like fit the theme I was going for, and I think it looked fine without it. Also, I'm not good at attaching zippers, so that was kind of just me catering to my own abilities. I am not good at sewing zippers, so I just didn't put one. And it still looks pretty good, so I'm happy that I did not put it, because I feel like it would have just ended up messier for me. So this is both a change and a material that I used. The original pattern has a little, like, corset detail on the back, here. I did put the little loops on there, but I ended up not lacing it up because I didn't really like the way it looked with it laced up. I tried it and I just preferred not having it. If I could, I would take them out, or if I was remaking it, I wouldn't have put it on, but now they're there, and so I just take pictures from the front. Other than that, I didn't make too many major changes. I added some gold cuffs to here just because it kind of tied the whole thing together, and it also kind of better matched the little cuffs that she has here on the book. So I did that. I just took the pattern piece that was from the bee coat, because the bee coat does have added cuffs. I just didn't add the piping onto the cuffs. So I just used the shape, and I did make them a little shorter by about an inch so that it would look nice on my cuff. And I added that just with a basic straight stitch. There probably is a prettier way to do it, but for me, I found that because I was folding them over anyway, it didn't really matter what they looked like on the inside. So that sleeve band piece that I added on is pattern piece 14, but I cut off about an inch of it when I did my fabric so that it'd be a little bit shorter, because it felt a little thick when I first cut it out. So just, you know, measure on yourself, make sure you are comfortable with what you're using. So I did maybe about that long instead of that long. Oh, another big thing I changed. I did not put D-rings here. So you'll see on this pattern, there's little like ribbons that go all the way across and D-rings that hold the ribbons in place, or at least are decorative. I didn't do that because I only needed 2 straps across the top. I didn't need all of them down. And also because I didn't have a zipper. So basically it just didn't really make sense for me to put it on. And so that's why I altered it and just put 2 buttons on each side. I'll put up like an actual picture of me wearing the coat over here and put some arrows. And then I made these little red ribbon coat things. They're not really ribbons, they're ropes. And that keep the coat shut when I'm wearing it. So these are just a little trim I found at Joann. They were kind of expensive, but the way I made them was I measured it out using, I was wearing the coat and I took the piece, wrapped it around, and then marked where it was. So then what I did is I put the 2 pieces, let me see if I have a spare, and then I would sew it straight down like here. Once it was sewn, I would kind of flip it so it was straight across like this, and then put a little bit of Fabri-Tac on there, a little bit of fabric glue just to keep it from fraying anymore. Now I'm going to talk about how I sized mine, and I'll put like my measurements over here. So if you're similar, you can kind of figure out how it fits. So I made mine a size 12 from this pattern. If I were to do it again, I'd probably size up a little bit because for me, it was tight around the shoulders. So I actually did not add sleeve lining, even though I did cut out pattern pieces for it. You'll see my sleeves are not lined because I found that it was just way too tight on my shoulders. Just because I have like decently broad shoulders and, you know, I got some delts. So for me, it was kind of tight. Since I'm already wearing a long sleeve red shirt under it, I didn't line it because I didn't want to add any more bulk around my shoulders. So I made mine a size 12, but even then, it does not close very well on my chest. It's just a little tight here. It's also tight on my shoulders. So if I had to pick 3 problem spots that I have, I'd have to say it was the sleeves, the neckband, and the princess seams at the front. One thing I did struggle a lot on, which a lot of beginners probably would too, is making the sleeves and being able to distribute the ease around the sleeve hole. Mine is pretty bad. Like, I was not able to get my ease to stay on, and putting a circle on a circle was so complicated for me. So there's a few little ruffles here, but I definitely recommend basting your sleeves in before you do the full sleeve before you put down your final stitches. If anything, the current stitches on here that I have are still just a slightly shorter basting stitch, and I just never went over it with a regular stitch, and it's held up for now. So it's a little hard on the sleeves, basically a lot of those smaller areas. So the sleeves were hard. Oh, another really hard part for me was the neckband. The neckband part that gave me trouble was understitching along this seam, and it's also double because it's a folded pattern piece. That was really hard for me, the understitching. If you look at my coat really closely, it's not perfect, but it's not very noticeable either because it's on the inside, because that's what an understitch is. So it's not super noticeable that it's not perfect. Let me see if it'll show up. Yeah, right here. I did understitch the neckband, but it took me so many tries. I had to recut out my neckband at least 4 times or something like that, because every time I just kept messing up. Another thing, I did not add interfacing to my neckband because I realized I bought the wrong thing. I didn't buy interfacing, I bought webbing, which is a completely different thing. So I ended up just not putting it in, and the neckband still stays standing when I wear it. I think because the fabric I used was relatively thick, it didn't really make a difference that I didn't put interfacing in it, and it seems to have worked out okay. Basically, this is just me walking through the parts I had trouble with. So another one of those spots is the princess seam on here. I have never sewn a princess seam before, and so it was a little hard for me to get used to distributing it so that I could get the curve right and make it look nice, but in the end I made it work, and I think it looks pretty good. I did like press all my seams and stuff after that. Make sure you always press your seams. Do that. So for that princess seam that I was talking about, that's when you have to get these 2 curves to match, and you can probably see by these 2 that they don't match up perfectly. Well, they will when you sew it, but when you cut them, it's not like a flat piece. It'll be on a curve, so make sure to be careful with that. Oh, another made thing I did. So for some reason, there's only one step on the whole pattern, except for the zipper, that I could not understand what it was talking about, and that was attaching the bodice lining. So, I'm gonna hold it weirdly. So, attaching this lining right here, I did not know how to do that with the machine. It just didn't sound right. Like, the explanation was really confusing. So I ended up just doing that all by hand. So I did hand stitch this whole lining on, and I think it looks cleaner than it would have if I did it with a machine. Just to make it look cleaner, I would suggest doing it by hand if you are like me and not quite understanding the directions. By the end, I was able to just use logic to kind of figure out how to hand stitch the lining on, but other than those 2 parts, I think it's a pretty easy pattern to follow. It's pretty straightforward. Funnily enough, as I'm filming this, the bodice lining just popped out a little bit, so I'm gonna have to restitch that in. Overall, I would say this is a pretty intermediate friendly coat pattern. I think it looks really good as like a kind of modernized version of a pirate coat. So if you know how your way around a sewing machine, you're not like a complete beginner, then this will probably be a good pattern for you. I think for me it was a good challenge, and it was the first thing I've done without my grandma helping me. So it's pretty cool that I got to make something and it turned out really well. If you have any questions about it, you can leave it in the comments and I will try to answer them. I definitely do recommend this S9086 pattern. And overall simplicity patterns are usually really good. So I'm glad I made it. I guess that's kind of it for this pattern review. It's a pretty straightforward pattern. I have nothing bad to say about it, nothing really specific to call out about it. Basically just, it's good enough, or I would rate my sewing skills at about maybe if 10 is a pro who can design their own clothing, and a 0 is someone who just started, I would probably consider myself maybe a 4, and I was able to make this without too many issues. It took me about 3 days and a few hours each day. I probably could have done it in a shorter amount of time if I spent all day every day doing it. I've said this a lot, but it's an easy enough pattern for someone who's intermediate at sewing. So that is all for this video. I hope you liked it and that it helped you decide if you want to use this pattern or not. I definitely recommend it for anyone who is above a basic sewing level and think it was really fun to make. So I hope you enjoyed that video and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Thank you for watching this video by Sophie and Sarah. There's another video you may enjoy right here, and you can click right here to subscribe for more sunshine and stupidity.
And you can click the notification bell to get an alert anytime we post a new video. Thanks for watching. Bye!